Today, I'm gonna be cooking with something I've heard of, but never actually cooked with before. The tri-tip steak. I looked up some ideas on Google to see what people do with tri-tip. One thing was very clear. I had to try my hand at proper Santa Marian barbecue. Roll the intro.
Ain't nothing gonna stop this. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire. I was born to be making history. Something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire. It's plain reality.
Now, I've never had Santa Maria style barbecue before, would love to try it one day. But for those who don't know what exactly Santa Maria style barbecue is, let me break it down for you. This style of barbecue is rooted in the Santa Maria County of California and is categorized by the following. Grilling meats over an open pit fire, usually with a crank grate. Indigenous red oak is used to impart the smoky flavor. A simple meat rub of salt, pepper, garlic, and parsley. The tri-tip is the current day popularized cuts, though plenty of other cuts of meat are used. The sides normally include Pinquito beans, which are native to the area, and it's kind of like an equivalent for a southern style baked bean, except done in the Santa Maria style. Additionally, they make a Santa Maria style tomato salsa, which is kind of akin to their ketchup or barbecue sauce. Now, due to some ingredient access limitations, obviously I can't do it exactly like they would do it in Santa Maria, but hopefully I can keep the spirit of Santa Maria barbecue intact. The first thing we're gonna start with is that Santa Marian style rub, because that is what is gonna be used in the meat, the beans, and the salsa.
So I really like the simplicity of the Santa Maria rub with the parsley, garlic, pepper, and salt. Kind of reminds me of just that salt and pepper rub that the Texas style barbecue uses. And then we're gonna throw everything in a food processor, and it's 2 parts salt and then 1 part of everything else. So I'm doing 4 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of fresh ground pepper, 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley, and 2 tablespoons of fresh garlic. And if you are using dried garlic powder or dried parsley flakes, then you would want to use probably less than I did, since the flavor will be more concentrated. Now let's put this rub through its first use, the Santa Maria style beans. Traditionally, these are made with Pinquito beans, though I'm substituting pinto beans here. But other than that, I kept everything pretty similar. And I love the use of both bacon and baked ham in this to provide a lot of smokiness. The first thing we gotta do is get these beans cooked, so I'm gonna put them in a large stuffed oven with about 9 cups of water and let these simmer for about an hour and a half. Meanwhile, we can prepare our bean sauce, which is gonna be done by throwing in that bacon and sauteing it down. And then after that is nice and not crispy, but kind of cooked up and translucent, we're gonna throw in our baked ham. And these components are great to provide a lot of complexity and smoky flavor to this dish, and I really enjoyed this take on the Santa Maria style bean. Once those are cooked down, we're gonna come in with some fresh tomatoes. You can use canned if you want, but since it's summertime, you gotta go fresh. And then you wanna come in with about maybe a 1/4 cup of ketchup, just enough to kind of help that cook down. We're gonna add our sugar, the Santa Maria style rub, and then coming in with mustard powder, ghost pepper powder, and paprika. If you don't have ghost pepper powder, just use a regular chili powder. And basically all we need to do is just stir this up and let it stew down for probably about 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm telling you, this smells so good. And then this is about 20 to 30 minutes, that sauce is thickened up, and we can move this to our back burner. This is about an hour and a half later of these simmering, and just bite through one and see if you can easily get through it. They shouldn't be completely cooked yet because we are going to cook them in the sauce. So drain off your beans, throw in that beautiful sauce, and then I reserved about a 1/2 cup of the bean water to throw in as well to help thin it out. And then we can just toss in our drained pinto beans. And then just give it a quick stir and add more water until the top looks like this. And then we can set these to simmer for about another 45 minutes to an hour. And the sauce should have thickened up pretty nicely. And then you can just take a test to see if the beans are done. If they're not quite there yet, just let them go for another 15, 20, 30 minutes until you've reached your level of doneness. So this is really very similar to just a pico de gallo, but then they add in olive oil, balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, and then obviously we're going to add in some of that Santa Maria style rub. All we have to do is just cut everything up and toss it in a bowl, but I did want to point out, look at how sharp my knives are right now. I recently got some whetstones and have been practicing, and I'm telling you, you can get any knife, even if it's a $10 knife, you can get it absolutely razor sharp. And we're going to be working on a complete ultimate beginner's guide, and I'm really excited to put it out. And I'm telling you, it's super satisfying when your knives are this sharp. I've literally was just cutting things just to cut them. I think I had like 4 apples the day after just so I could cut them into slices. Moving along though, I'm going to chop up this Anaheim chili, and you could use a can of diced green chilies. That's what's typically used, but since I have fresh ingredients, I'm always going to use them no matter what kind of recipes that I find. So hopefully Santamarians aren't too mad about me using an Anaheim, but it was a welcome addition to the salsa. Then we're going to toss in some red onion, just finely dice that up, and then we're going to do the same with our scallions, and again, just sharp knives, so much fun. Now, because I didn't follow my big ass bowl advice, that's what I'm busting out right now. We're going to toss in our Santa Maria rub, a little bit of olive oil, a couple drops of the balsamic, and our red wine vinegar. And then really you just need to stir this up and taste and adjust if you need to. And this is a really nice salsa. I like the addition of the balsamic a lot in here. And I'm telling you, when you pair this with the Santa Maria style beans, it creates this really, really addicting bite. But now it's time to get the main attraction, our tri-tip steak. So for the tri-tip, just the Santa Maria rub, our steak, and then I'm going to be using oak wood. Tried to keep it in the family since red oak is hard for me to get. And then I just removed a little bit of this membrane, not much at all, but if you do need to remove a little bit, just keep an eye on that. And then we're just going to toss on a bunch of this Santa Maria style rub and get this nice and massage. Make sure you cover every inch of that thing. And I'm telling you, this is so much flavor packed in there. But now it is time to set up our grill. So I'm using a kind of Texas style barbecue grill, but the traditional Santa Maria grills use these cool crank grates to control the heat. But really the techniques are all the same. It's all about indirect heat and direct heat. So to get our direct heat side set up, I need to toss in some paper towels. I just added a little bit of lighter fluid to them, then tossing in some hardwood charcoal. And then to that charcoal, I'm just going to light it, and then after about 20 minutes or so, it should be white and gray and looking like this, and then that is when we can toss in our oak wood. So we've got this cool little hatch on the side, makes it super easy, and you just toss in your oak wood. And guys, if you don't have a grill like this, you can do the same exact method that I showed in my little grilling tips video. You would just do the same exact thing I'm doing here, because all you need to do is set up a direct heat and an indirect heat side. So to actually cook this thing, we're going to throw this on the direct heat first, and we're going to get a nice sear on both sides. I would say 5 to 7 minutes on both sides. Use your judgment, but you definitely want a nice sear. And then when we flip this thing over, I'm telling you, it just looks like $1,000,000 right there. Then after we've got that nice sear on both sides, I'm going to move this over to the indirect heat side. So you can still see the coals from that side box are going to provide heat into here, but it's nowhere near as hot as it is in the direct heat side. And I forgot to show this, but I stuck a meat thermometer in the thickest part of the meat, and we're letting that go until it reaches 130 degrees internally. And 130 degrees is going to give you like that perfect medium that I look for in a nice piece of steak. Now for a big cut of meat like this, I would say bare minimum, let this rest for like 15 minutes. That's just going to help everything kind of relax in there before we actually go ahead and cut it up. So we want to cut across the grain, so the grain is running down that way away from me. So I'm going to cut right across that and cut these big nice strips of tri-tip steak. And I'm telling you, the juices running off of this are just wonderful. perfectly cooked to that 130 degrees. I mean, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And the tenderness and juiciness, I mean, this is just a wonderful piece of steak. Like I said, I've never cooked with a tri-tip steak before, but this will definitely not be the last time, I'll tell you that. So several hours later, we have all our sides together, and I'm telling you, it was a lot of work, but now it's time for the taste test.
All right, guys, well, I'm hungry, I'm sweaty, and I am so sick of these flies all over the place. But before we go, I'm gonna take a look at this steak. It's cold by now with all the pictures and things I took, but I am absolutely dying to taste this. We've got the nice bark on there, the juicy interior. For a first-time tri-tip steak cook, I'm more than pleased. Bean test. Flavors are on point. Some of the beans, the texture's a little bit still like, not crunchy, but not as soft as I would like it to be, but then some of them are perfectly soft. Might just been the batch of beans I got, I'm not sure. But anyway, this was a really enjoyable time exploring Santa Maria barbecue. Hopefully I stayed true enough to the true Santa Maria barbecue spirit, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.